Hello and welcome to the special edition of Inside Story coming to you from the Doha Forum. I'm Dareen Abughaida. Over the next 25 minutes, we'll be looking at the issue of food security and water sustainability. With a projected global population of more than 9 billion people by the year 2050, what's at stake if countries don't ensure food and water security? We'll bring in our guests in just a moment, but first, this report by Sarah Khairat.
Starving and on the verge of famine in a place where the UN says food is used as a weapon of war. 20 million Yemenis don't know if they'll be able to eat, and malnutrition remains a grave concern where the world's worst humanitarian crisis continues to unfold.
We've hit rock bottom. No words, no jobs, because of the war.
Hunger has gone up for a third year in a row, going back to levels not seen since 2008. But global conflict isn't just limited to war. Economic crises, austerity measures and public discontent with political leaders are all contributing factors to a rise in food shortages. Climate change is also to blame. Record temperatures are killing thousands of people and causing billions of dollars in damage to facilities and crops.
Yeah, copy that. We're en route right now from drop point.
Natural disasters like the recent wildfires in California act as a reminder that global warming is an issue that affects everyone wherever they are in the world. At this refugee camp in Afghanistan, the water won't be running for that long, and people here say they're dreading the harsh winter ahead.
Drought has forced us to leave our home. We had no food and no water. We've been displaced by this poverty and misery.
Water sustainability and food security come hand in hand as scientists look at new ways to grow nutritional foods with less water. All the while, displaced people like Muhyiddin will continue to struggle to survive. Sarah Khairat, Inside Story.
Let me introduce our speakers. Without further ado, to my left, Ambassador Badr Al-Dafa. He's the Executive Director of the Global Dryland Alliance, whose mission is to work with partners to identify and implement solutions for agricultural, water, and energy challenges of dry land countries in particular. We have next Mr. Djimé Adoum. He's the Executive Secretary of the Permanent Interstates Committee for Drought Control in the Sahel, and the organization's mandate is to invest in research for food security and the fight against the effects of drought and desertification for a new ecological balance in the Sahel region. We have Minister Pablo Campana. Welcome to you as well. He's Ecuador's Minister of Foreign Trade and Investments. And Mr. Miguel Moratinos, he's the future UN High Representative for the Alliance of Civilizations. That is a political initiative established to explore the roots of polarization between societies and cultures today. Welcome to you all. Lots to talk about. Let's get started right away. Ambassador Badr Al-Dafa, before we get into the correlation between water sustainability and food security, or insecurity that is, give us some context. How would you describe the state of food security today globally?
Today, there are 820 million people are suffer from hunger. 1 out of 9 are hungry. Over 22% of people threatened by hunger lives in sub-Saharan Africa. I'm sure you have been watching the news. Last year, over 5,000 migrants have lost their lives at sea while looking for a better living condition. What is coming up is really worse because the world population by 2030 is going to be around 9 billion. The investment in agriculture is lagging behind. I don't want to draw a gloomy picture, but it is a very serious issue. World leaders have really to look into how to deal with the issue of food security.
Okay, Mr. Djimé Adoum, so the challenges that Ambassador Al-Dafa mentioned are global. He gave us a few grim statistics, that is. We know that countries in the Sahel suffer from food insecurity as a result of droughts as well as other environmental factors. Just give us the point of view as you see it. How vulnerable do countries in the Sahel remain today?
According to the report cited by Ambassador and currently available statistics, do show that of the 821 million people who are really undergoing severe malnutrition and hunger, 233 of them are from Africa. In others, roughly 21%. And about 383 million people in Africa live off $1.9 US dollars. That's where basically so if you have $1.9 per day, that's the bare minimum. And so it is currently trailing, just coming after Asia with respect to number of people who are having serious difficulties. Now, these are the gloomy pictures, but there's also the bright side. That is, with respect to a number of these people, can there be anything that can be done? Yes. That creates opportunities. In other words, so if you look at what we have, what we possess in sub-Saharan Africa, and the area from which I come, that is Sahel and West Africa, we irrigate less than 3% of available land. So that means we produce once a year, and if we don't produce 2-3 times a year, we won't be able to produce sufficiently enough to satisfy our basic food consumptive needs, let alone transforming, creating wealth and jobs. All right? We have sufficient land, of which we are only actually currently putting in use 20%.
Minister Campana, do the challenges require common solutions as well as shared responsibilities? Is it a one-size-fits-all? I mean, does the solution here lie with food producing and export countries like Ecuador, for example, who is a key actor in the global trade and the setting of food prices?
In Ecuador, we have one of the main lungs in the world, and I'm talking about the Amazon's forest. A little part of it, we have managed to safeguard our primary forest. This is part of our constitution, and we have protected this forest against oil and gas production, and we have managed to do that. And something very important is, and that is actually one of the reasons why we are here, is because we are looking for strategic partners, and we are able to find complementary productions. We know that we have agricultural production, like dairy products, like potatoes, and many other produce that are being wasted because there's not enough outlets. We don't have enough distribution. So we need to have a partnership. We need to work as a team to benefit our peoples. Therefore, Ecuador is looking for strategic partners in order to be able to share experiences and export its produce, all sort of products, and fight against this malnutrition that affects worldwide population.
Mr. Moratinos, what we now see, especially with the migration to Europe of refugees and migrants, that there is a direct link between poverty and food insecurity. It's really a driving force behind some of the migration that we see. These migrants heading to Europe. Talk to us about Europe's role. Does it play an enough active role in supporting the poor and hungry that are coming from dryland countries?
The old diplomacy, the traditional diplomacy, I belong to that, of course, has been addressing the traditional agenda of territorial dispute, war and peace, conflict, neglecting what today's agenda is much more important. Today, food security, water scarcity, what we can call the new sustainability agenda that had been approved by the whole international community in 2015, shows the way what are the real root causes of the problems. If there has been a war in Syria, there is many factors, but one of the reasons was desertification and lack of food security. If there is migration, as you say, it's because there is the root causes that people are starving, as our friend from Chad has described. There are poverty, there are hunger. So the new transitional phase that the UN is taking shape now, the new way to address the international agenda today should conduct us to put food security and these 17 goals of the SDG at the top priority of international relationship. So to discuss today here in Doha how we should address this issue is absolutely essential. So just to go to the subject and answering your question about migration. What can we be happy? What is going on? Can we accept that every year our friends in Rome, in FAO, read a paper, very serious, looking to the journalists? Well, we have to acknowledge that during the last 6 years, every year we have to announce, unfortunately, that there are more people suffering hunger. Can we accept that? It's a total failure of FAO, a total failure of international systems that are addressing the food security. And politicians, I will say the decision-making leaders that have to address this issue at the national level, regional level, at international level, have to wake up and say enough is enough.
Ambassador Dafa, there's a lot of talk here about international cooperation that's needed, and your organization, the Global Dryland Alliance, aims to establish a network among countries who are suffering from the same challenges. But let me move this discussion along to focus now on water sustainability and water scarcity. So in your opinion, how key is policy development when it comes to water scarcity? Is there the political will on the behalf of governments to tackle this issue from what you've seen?
I think Europe also could play an important role rather than let these migrants cross the Mediterranean to go to Europe. It will be cheaper for Europe to invest in these countries, because once these immigrants are integrated in system in Spain or France or in Germany, the investment is high. Maybe it could cost less than 20% if they will support these individuals, create a job for them in their own country and let them rely on themselves rather than feed them fish, teach them how to fish. I think that is really an important element, although it has started a bit by some European country, but we really need to see this at a larger scale. Now, when it comes to water, all civilizations were flourished because they have plenty of water, especially those that along rivers. The source of water in dryland country really comes from rain. But with the climate change, desertification, these countries have to find, I think, as also Minister Djimé have said in sub-Saharan and Sahel countries, main issue is water. Water is really life for any community. The better off countries, they are able, for example, when we talk about Gulf countries, 98% of our water come from the sea, from the desalination process. And technology today also plays a very important role in improving the quality of water. But also there are countries that, I will take the example of Singapore and the state of California, Orange County in state of California, where they transfer what they call the gray water into drinking water. That could only happen with technology, but technology at a high price that is not affordable to less developed countries. Unless the international community really take this issue seriously, we are going to see some problems. Even it would lead to wars over water if some countries do not have the access to fresh water in the future.
Which is something that I think we are beginning to see now. There are water wars between India and Pakistan, for example. We know it's being fought over in the Middle East. Mr. Djimé, Adoum, so Ambassador Dafa was giving us the statistics from the Gulf region. The UN is saying that the world water supply will fall short by at least 40%. That's by the year 2030. That is a very grim statistic. What's at stake for countries in the Sahel region?
Well, if we green the space, we'll increase the likelihood of creating more water. We're going to pump some water. We're going to green it up, and then this ground that will be covered will generate some moisture. But let me put a plug in with respect to water and in our neck of the wood. There are water harvesting technologies, there are drought-resistant crops, there are all kinds of technologies readily available right now. And we also have the know-how. We in CILSS area, the ECOWAS and the UMA and the likes in the 17 countries in that region, we do have the science and we do have the knowledge. We brought degraded land into productive areas and what have you, and we know how to do that. What is left is investment, and we also do know what to do with respect to water. So we need investments to be able to bring, as I said earlier, we only irrigate less than 3% of available land. We actually domesticated, if such a word could be used in this context, 20% of arable land in our area. So if we do that, we will be able to definitely produce, transform, process, create wealth and jobs, and stop those kids who go to Europe. They can stay in the villages and what have you because they are educated. They come out of school at a minimum 100,000 graduate with at least bachelors from each of those countries.
Minister Campana, in Ecuador, water is enshrined in the constitution, isn't it, as a human right, but there is still great inequality of access. How much is the issue of the scarcity of water or the potential of the scarcity of water at the forefront of people's minds there? And is it driving political change in your region as a whole?
One of the problems that we have seen in Ecuador is that in the last 50 years, we have seen a 20% of reduction of the mountains with ice, the glaciers. They have lost a big amount of snow and ice, which is the source of water production for rivers. I would like to remind you that Ecuador is the most highest biodiversity in the world. We have therefore taken political measures. Ecuador has 90% of its energy that comes from renewable sources, as we have wind farms, and we have hydroelectric plants, and we would like to continue on this path. We would like to have a more Ecuadorian agriculture, and this is a priority. In Ecuador, 1/3 of productive areas only are exploited. We need more FDI, more foreign direct investment, so as to be able to develop our farms.
Mr. Moratinos, how big a threat, in your opinion, is water scarcity and the lack of water resource management to global security? And if this is indeed a global problem, which it very much sounds like it is, where does the responsibility lie to take it on?
Well, I think we are advancing in a new concept. It's a paradox. We are living in what we call a consuming society. People want more, 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 more. And the solution of this challenge of food security, water sustainability, if we use the good acronym, is a few. I mean, it's food, energy, and water. So this nexus of food, energy, and water demonstrate that in order to get food, you need water and energy. So in relation with water, as my predecessors in the panel have pointed out, I mean, only 2.5 for the whole surface of the Earth is water. So there is a scarcity of water. Water is very badly distributed. 80% of the water belongs to 10 countries out of 193. Only Russia, China, United States, Canada, Peru, Colombia, maybe Ecuador, well, have this capacity to really have a high reserve on water. The distribution with certain, the way a European citizens spend 300 liters per day, and the poor guy in Gaza they have only 50 liters. So the reservoir, the Earth reservoir on water is decreasing. So what to do? Well, I think we have to use this nexus. As we have said, the technology can be applied. There is not a fatality on that.
So we're just coming to the end of the session. I just want final thoughts from each of my panelists in 30 seconds each, if you can. The bottom line, Ambassador Dafa, if there aren't enough substantial global and agricultural changes from now until that year of 2050, when that population is really going to rise dramatically, what will happen?
Well, I think we should really have a global awareness about the strong linkage between food security, peace, and peace in the world. In will of societies, sometimes we think $1 is a small amount, but $1 in one of these poor countries could bring 3 meals a day for a poor person. What I'm saying here is that we have to always remember that there are hungry people somewhere. Their number actually is also in the increase, and we have to donate as individual, as society, as whoever can donate something. I think they should do in order to bring peace and stability to the world.
Mr. Djimé, Adoum, your final thoughts?
Create opportunities for investments in water production systems, transform, create wealth and jobs, and there will be a place for everyone.
Thank you very much. Minister Campana, final thoughts from you.
Mi mensaje final sería, el mundo entero tiene que valorar.
Message would be that the world in general should also take care of the primary forests of water sources, and we have to work on that, and we have to actually assess whether these carbon permits, as we could call them, have worked, and whether this has been enough.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moratinos. Go ahead.
I will end with a quotation of my friend, former president of Israel, Shimon Peres, saying that there has no sense to fight for water when we can't create it. there is no sense to fight for our land when we can't fertilize it and not enter in a war. Technology is the better alternative to war.
Okay, well, on that note, we'll leave it there. We thank you very much. I thank all of my panelists for joining us today. Great discussion. Thank you to the audience for joining us as well. It was good to have you with us. And thank you very much for watching this special edition of Inside Story from the Doha Forum. Bye-bye for now.